Greetings, lore masters. Tonight, our chronicle unwinds a path many of us have walked before, but perhaps without a proper map. We journey to the very beginning, to those first bewildering hours in the crisp, cold air of Skyrim. Imagine it now, the misty pines of Falktree, the distant roar of a waterfall you haven't yet discovered, and the weight of a destiny you don't yet understand pressing down upon your shoulders. You've just survived an execution, a dragon attack, and a rather harrowing trek through a damp cave system. You feel powerful, chosen, and ready to carve your legend into this land of snow and stone. Let's be honest, you'd probably feel a lot better if you'd been able to grab a sweet roll on your way out of Helgen. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from, and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The Dragonborn, a title still ringing with the hollow echo of a prophecy not yet earned, stumbles out of the darkness of Embershard Mine and into the gentle light of the afternoon. The air here tastes different, cleaner, laced with the scent of pine and the wet stone of the river that gives the nearby village its name, Riverwood. It sounds peaceful. It looks peaceful. A lumber mill churns slowly at the water's edge, its rhythmic groan a steady heartbeat for the hamlet. A blacksmith's hammer rings out with a reassuring cadence, and over there, pecking aimlessly in the dust, near the roadside, is a chicken. It is, by all accounts, an unremarkable bird. It clucks, it scratches, it exists. To the Dragonborn, however, it is something else. Perhaps it is a source of food for a stomach still rumbling from prison rations. Perhaps it is a target, a way to test the tension of a newly acquired bowstring. Or perhaps, in a world that has just tried to violently and unjustly end them, it is simply something small enough to exert power over. With a thoughtless flick of the wrist, a small flame erupts. Or maybe it's the whisper of a drawn arrow, or the simple brutal arc of a rusty iron war axe. The method is irrelevant. The result is a soft poof of feathers and a squawk that is abruptly cut short. For a single beautiful second, nothing happens. The blacksmith's hammer continues its song. The mill continues its groan. Then, a voice cuts through the air, sharp and accusatory. Hey, it's a woodcutter, perhaps Gerda, her face a mask of disbelief and fury. From across the path, Alvor the blacksmith drops his hammer with a heavy clang, his hand drifting towards the dagger at his belt. Even the town drunk, sleeping it off on a bench, seems to stir with a newfound sense of civic duty. The Dragonborn has not merely killed a chicken, they have violated a sacred trust. They have, in the eyes of this entire tight-knit community, committed a crime so heinous that it demands immediate violent retribution, and so they come. A sleepy little village transforms in an instant into a vengeful mob, their farming implements and hunting bows, now aimed with deadly intent at the monster in their midst. This is the first, and perhaps most important, lesson Skyrim teaches. The law is not an abstract concept enforced by distant men in ornate armor. It is a living, breathing thing, woven into the very fabric of the community. In a land as harsh and unforgiving as Skyrim, every resource is precious. That chicken was not just a wild animal, it was property. It represented a dozen future meals in the form of eggs, a hearty stew when it grew old, a small but vital piece of one family's ability to survive the coming winter. To needlessly destroy it is to spit in the face of their struggle. It's an act of pure chaos, signaling to these hard-working, weary people that you are not a potential neighbor, but a threat to their fragile existence. This core, in-game fact that the smallest crime against property can turn an entire hold against you is a brilliant piece of environmental storytelling. There is no pop-up tutorial explaining the socio-economic importance of poultry. There is only the swift and brutal education delivered by a dozen angry Nords. Delving deeper, this reaction is codified in the unwritten social contracts of Tamriel, While a book like Theft of the Virtue might discuss grand heists and the morality of professional thieves, the reality for the common Nord is far simpler. Their legal framework is based on a fierce belief in personal property and community justice. An obscure text, A Beggar's Right, argues for the inherent protections afforded to every citizen, no matter how lowly. This principle extends, crucially, to what they own. In the absence of a robust province-wide police force, justice becomes a communal responsibility. The guards in White Run or Solitude are concerned with the affairs of the city, but out here in the woods, the community polices itself. An attack on Alvar's chicken is an attack on Gerda's lumber and Fandal's share of the hunt. It is an attack on the delicate web of trust that allows Riverwood to function. They are not just avenging a dead bird, they are defending the very foundations of their society from a dangerous outsider. They are showing the Dragonborn that in Skyrim, actions have consequences, and survival depends on respecting the rules, even the ones that are unsaid. Over the years, the gaming community has, of course, taken this brutal lesson and spun it into a legend. You would be hard-pressed to find a veteran player who doesn't have a story about their first encounter with what they lovingly call the Riverwood chicken. Fans still debate, with tongues firmly in cheek, the true nature of this particular fowl. Was it just a chicken, or was it something more? A popular theory suggests the chicken is a spy. Some say it's an agent for the Blades, placed there by Delphine to test the moral character of the person she's been looking for. Others whisper that it's a familiar of the Greybeards, a silent observer sent by Parthenax to see if this new Dragonborn possesses the wisdom and restraint required to wield the Thu'um. A darker, more amusing variant of the theory posits that the chicken is in the employ of the Falmer, a feathery justiciar, whose job is to identify potential agents of chaos who might be useful or disruptive to their plans. It's a wonderful piece of community myth-making, a way to add a layer of grand conspiracy to what is, fundamentally, a harsh lesson about being a careless jerk in a world that can't afford it. The Dragonborn, now either reloading a save file or staring at a bleak grey death screen, has learned the truth. The path to legend is fraught with peril, but the very first guardian of that path, the first great test of worthiness, isn't a dragon or a draga, it's a chicken. Having learned this harsh lesson about the tangible physical laws of Skyrim society, the Dragonborn might turn their attention to the less visible rules that govern this land. Magic. In the smouldering ruin of Helgen, they may have found their first spell tome, its pages crackling with latent energy. The book taught them flames, a simple gout of fire that springs from their palm. It feels primal, powerful. It is the arcane equivalent of a sharp stick, and in the dark tunnels of a bandit cave or a draga-infested ruin, it is an immensely satisfying tool. The smell of scorched linen and burning, desiccated flesh is a potent perfume, an announcement that the wielder is more than just another warrior with an axe. They are a conduit for the raw, destructive energies of the world, and it is an intoxicating feeling. This initial foray into the arcane arts almost always begins and ends with the School of Destruction. It is simple, direct, and its effects are immediately, violently obvious. Why learn to do anything else when you can simply burn your problems until they stop moving? This, however, is like learning to cook and never moving past boiling water. The true artistry of magic lies beyond the simple applications of fire, frost, and shock. The core fact every aspiring mage must learn is that there are 5 great schools, and destruction is arguably the least imaginative of them all. There is restoration, the quiet, dignified art of mending flesh, and turning back the unholy tide of the undead. There is conjuration, the practice of borrowing power from oblivion, calling forth Daedric familiars, and binding souls into enchanted weapons. And then there are the 2 schools that truly separate the apprentice from the archmage: illusion and alteration. These are the arts of the mind, the arts of reality itself. A master of these schools understands that the most effective way to win a fight is to ensure it never happens on your enemy's terms. Why trade fireballs with a coven of necromancers when a single, well-placed fury spell can have them tearing each other to shreds in a paranoid homicidal frenzy? The illusionist is a puppet master, pulling the strings of their enemies' minds. They can walk through a fortress unseen and unheard, their footsteps muffled by a cushion of silence, their very form rendered invisible to the eye. They can calm a raging bandit chief with a whispered word, leaving him placid and vulnerable, or they can sow terror in the ranks of a Falmer war party, sending the creatures screaming into the darkness away from some phantom horror only they can see. Alteration, meanwhile, is even more profound. It is the art of telling reality that its rules are for the moment suspended. The alteration mage scoffs at locked doors, for a simple spell can persuade the tumblers to fall into place. They do not fear drowning, for they can convince their lungs that water is as breathable as air. They can even defy gravity with the telekinesis spell, pulling a distant object to their hand as if on a string. Most terrifyingly, an alteration master can cast paralyze. This is not a poison that stiffens the limbs, it is a direct command to an enemy's body to simply stop. A charging mammoth, its tusks meters from the Dragonborn's chest, will suddenly freeze mid-stride, crashing to the ground in a helpless, rigid heap. A powerful dragon priest, his hands alight with crackling energy, will find himself locked in place, a living statue, able to do nothing but watch as his doom approaches. This is the ultimate expression of control, a power far more absolute than a simple bolt of lightning. It is the difference between shouting at the world and rewriting its foundational code. And yet, for all this potential, a quiet sense of decay pervades the magical arts in Skyrim. The College of Winterhold, once a beacon of arcane knowledge, is a crumbling ruin, clinging to the edge of a cliff, both literally and metaphorically. The Nords are a deeply suspicious people, viewing magic as an elven trick, something untrustworthy and dangerous. This has led to a long and ongoing debate within the community of lore masters. Is magic in the Fourth Era fundamentally weaker than it was in ages past? Veteran adventurers recall the grand spells of Morrowind and Cyrodiil, the ability to levitate, to walk on water, to craft bespoke spells of unimaginable power at an enchanter's altar. These arts seem to be lost. The fan theory is twofold. One camp argues that, yes, magic itself is in decline. Perhaps the sundering of the Staff of Chaos, or the events of the Oblivion Crisis, have left permanent scars on the fabric of reality, making such grand manipulations impossible. The other, more subtle camp, suggests that the magic isn't weaker, but the culture has simply rejected it. Skyrim, they argue, is a land of warriors and hunters. Its people value the tangible bite of a steel axe over the ephemeral glow of a spell. The magic available to the Dragonborn is therefore a reflection of this culture, blunter, more direct, and less esoteric. The college is not a thriving university. It's a dusty museum, hoarding what little knowledge it has left against a tide of public distrust. This fear of the unknown, of what magic could truly be, may be what blinds the mages of Skyrim to the deepest secrets of their own craft. Beyond the 5 documented schools lies another, a forbidden and whispered art, known only as shadow magic. This is an obscure piece of lore, a concept that exists on the fringes of understanding. It is not about light or elements, but about the manipulation of what is not there, darkness, silence, luck, and even nothingness itself. It is the magic of Nocturnal, the Daedric Prince of Night. The nightingales who serve her are said to be practitioners. The legendary Grey Cowl, an artifact of her creation, performs a feat of shadow magic far beyond any known illusion spell. It does not merely hide the wearer's face, it erases their identity from the minds of all who behold them, effectively deleting them from history for as long as it is worn. This is not bending the rules of reality, it is weaving new rules from the threads of shadow and secrets. It suggests that the 5 schools are but a child's primer, a safe and sanitized curriculum that deliberately ignores the terrifying reality-annihilating possibilities that lie waiting in the dark. The Dragonborn, clutching their simple flame spell, stands before an infinite ocean of knowledge, unaware that what they've been taught is barely enough to wet their feet. Before the Dragonborn can truly grasp the nature of the magic that flows through them, they must first understand the vessel that contains it. They look down at their hands. Are they the slender, long-fingered hands of an Altmer, humming with latent magicka, the calloused, sturdy hands of a Nord, comfortable with the heft of an axe, or perhaps the furred, claw-tipped hands of a Khajiit, designed for stealth and speed? Before they were a prisoner, before their destiny was hijacked by the return of the dragons, they were something else. They were a child of a particular people, heir to a history stretching back into the mists of the Dawn era. And this choice of lineage, this simple declaration of who I am, is the second great lesson Skyrim has to teach. It is a lesson of profound importance, and paradoxically, of almost no importance at all. The core of the matter is this: your race defines your beginning. Each of the 10 great races of Tamriel is born with a unique set of gifts, a birthright carried in their very blood. A Redguard enters the world with a seemingly endless well of stamina and a natural affinity for all manner of blades. A Breton carries the blood of both men and mer, and this mixed heritage grants them a formidable resistance to magic, as if their very skin is a ward against hostile energies. The Orsimer, the so-called pariah folk, can call upon a deep well of rage, a berserker fury that allows them to deal devastating damage while shrugging off blows that would fell a lesser warrior. This choice is felt immediately. A high elf, an Altmer, feels the winds of magic as a gentle, familiar current. Their reserves of magicka naturally deeper than any other race. An Argonian, born of the swamp, can breathe underwater indefinitely, finding safety in hidden paths where others would find a suffocating grave. These are not mere statistical advantages. They are tangible realities that shape the Dragonborn's first tentative steps into this new life. A Nord feels less of a sting from the biting frost that is Skyrim's constant companion, a small comfort that speaks to a deeper truth. They are home. The world, too, responds to this choice. The Nords of Skyrim are a proud, often xenophobic people. A fellow Nord might be greeted with a hearty welcome, while an elf, particularly a Dunmer or Altmer, will be met with suspicion and muttered insults on the streets of Windhelm. The Khajiit, due to a reputation for smuggling and theft, are barred from entering the cities, confined to the lonely life of the travelling caravan. An Imperial might be seen as a loyalist or a tyrant, depending on whose company they are in. These reactions, these small moments of prejudice or kinship, weave a unique texture into the Dragonborn's journey. They serve as a constant reminder that they are not just an adventurer, but a representative of their people, carrying the weight of their culture's history, for good or for ill. It grounds them in the world, making their identity a real and felt thing. But this history runs deeper than the squabbles of the Fourth Era. The animosity between men and mer, for example, is not merely the result of the recent Great War. It is an echo of a conflict from the dawn of time, a schism in the very nature of divinity. Obscure lore, found in the crumbling pages of books like the Anawad, speaks of the Elnafi, the Earthbones. These were the ancestor spirits who participated in the creation of the mortal plane. The ancestors of all elves, the Eldmer, are said to descend from the Elnafi, who chose to stay close to their original static and divine nature. The ancestors of men, by contrast, descend from the wandering Elnafi, those spirits who fully embraced the new chaotic and mortal world, severing their ties to the past. This is the great secret of the races. Mer see themselves as the noble descendants of gods, wrongfully trapped in a mortal prison, and seeking a return to their divine origins. Men see themselves as the rightful inheritors of a world they love, a world the elves have always disdained. The Thalmor's desire to unmake the world is not just political ambition, it is the ultimate expression of this ancient Aldmeri desire to escape mortality. Your choice of race places you on one side of a conflict that began before the dragon god of time even learned to scream. And yet, here is the great paradox. For all of this history, for all of the inborn gifts and societal prejudices, a time will come when it all begins to fade into the background. As the Dragonborn grows in power, as they absorb the souls of slain dragons and master the esoteric arts of smithing, enchanting, and alchemy, their racial heritage becomes less of a destiny and more of a gentle suggestion. This has been a topic of endless debate among Tamriel's chroniclers. Does it break the immersion of the world for an orc, a race typically shunned for their lack of magical talent, to rise to the rank of Archmage of the College of Winterhold? Is it right that a physically frail Altmer can become a legendary warrior, clad in Daedric armor and wielding the volcanic warhammer, Volendrung? Some argue that this diminishes the importance of racial identity, turning it into a mere cosmetic choice. But another, more compelling theory suggests that the Dragonborn is a unique exception to the rules of mortality. Their soul is not that of a man or a mer, it is a shard of Arkatosh, the soul of a dragon, housed in a mortal shell. This draconic essence is a vessel of infinite potential, a blank slate that is not bound by the predispositions of its fleshly container. The Dragonborn is not a Nord who happens to have a dragon's soul. They are a dragon who happens to be wearing a Nord's body. Their power and potential are their own, untethered to the history of the El Nofi. Their destiny is not to live up to the legacy of their race, but to forge an entirely new one. Their lineage in the end is just the first chapter of their story, not its conclusion. Before, the civil war's tangled, bloody knot. Once the Dragonborn has come to terms with the body they inhabit and the lineage they carry, they are immediately confronted with a new, far more pressing question of identity. It is not who are you, but whose side are you on? From the moment they escape the chaos of Helgen, guided by either the loyal Imperial soldier Hadvar or the fierce Stormcloak rebel Ralof, the great conflict of the age is laid at their feet. The civil war in Skyrim is not a distant rumor heard in taverns. It is a raw, open wound, dividing families, villages, and the very soul of the nation. The Dragonborn cannot remain neutral for long. The world will demand they choose a banner, and in this choice, they will discover one of the most bitter and uncomfortable truths of this land. There is no right answer. The war is a tangled, bloody knot, and pulling on any single thread only serves to tighten it. To understand the Stormcloaks is to understand the heart of the Nord people. In a camp tucked away in the snowy pines of East March, the Dragonborn can feel the heat of their righteous fury. They see banners bearing the sigil of the bear, the symbol of their leader, Ulfric's Stormcloak. They hear the songs, not the polished anthems of the Empire, but raw, howling ballads of heroes and freedom, of Isgramor's conquests, and the glories of Sovngarde. Theirs is a cause born of deep-seated pride and profound insult. The Empire in their eyes is a broken, cowardly entity that sold its soul to the old Merry Dominion. The White Gold Concordat, the treaty that ended the Great War, is a chain around their necks, and its most galling link is the ban on the worship of Talos. Talos is not just a god to the Nords, he is their god. He was Tiber Septim, a man of their land, a dragonborn who conquered the continent and ascended to the heavens. To be told they can no longer worship him is to be told that their history is a lie and their greatest hero is a fraud. Ulfric's rebellion is a roar of defiance against this. It is a declaration that Skyrim belongs to the Nords and that they will die on their feet before they live on their knees under the thumb of elven masters. Yet, if the Dragonborn travels west, to the imperial capital of Solitude, they will hear a very different story. Here, under the stern but weary gaze of General Tullius, they will find not tyranny, but a desperate, pragmatic attempt to hold a crumbling world together. The Imperial Legion is the last bastion of a once great union of men. They see the Stormcloaks not as freedom fighters, but as selfish, short-sighted children throwing a tantrum while the house is on fire. From the imperial perspective, the white gold concordat was a bitter pill they were forced to swallow to survive. It bought the empire time to rebuild its legions, to marshal its resources, to prepare for the inevitable Second Great War against the Falmer, an enemy that wishes to unmake humanity itself. Ulfric's rebellion, they argue, is playing directly into the Thalmor's hands. It is a knife in the back of the empire, forcing the Legion to waste precious soldiers and resources fighting its own people. Every Nord killed by an imperial sword is one less man to stand against the Dominion. Theirs is not a cause of passion, but of grim necessity. They fight for order, for unity, and for the greater good of all mankind, even if the men they are trying to save are currently trying to kill them. Herein lies the core, inescapable fact of the war. Both sides are tragically deeply flawed. The Stormcloak's noble cause of religious freedom is poisoned by a virulent xenophobia. One need only walk through the grey quarter of Windhelm, the city Ulfric himself rules, to see the truth. The Dark Elves, refugees who have lived in Skyrim for generations, are forced into a segregated slum, treated with open contempt and suspicion by the very Nords who cry out for their own freedom. Ulfric himself is less a selfless liberator and more a charismatic opportunist who used the Thu'um, a sacred gift, to murder the High King of Skyrim and advance his own ambition. On the other hand, the Empire's pragmatic fight for unity is built on a foundation of moral compromise. They enforce a treaty that allows Falmer justiciars, clad in their sinister black and gold armor, to roam the province with impunity, dragging citizens from their homes for the crime of praying to the wrong god. The empire that once stood for strength and honor now stands by while its own people are tortured and killed by its sworn enemies. The true horror, however, lies buried in a dusty file, deep within the Falmer embassy. An obscure but vital document, a dossier on Ulfric Stormcloak, reveals the war for what it truly is, a puppet show. The Falmer are not merely passive observers, they are the architects of this conflict. The dossier reveals that they captured Ulfric during the Great War. After a period of interrogation, they realized his potent combination of pride, ambition, and hatred for the Empire made him the perfect tool. They allowed him to escape, knowing he would become a disruptive force. The dossier explicitly states that a decisive victory for either side is undesirable. The Falmer's goal is to perpetuate the conflict, to keep the Empire and the Nords locked in a bloody stalemate, bleeding each other white. Every casualty, Imperial or Stormcloak, is a victory for the Aldmeri Dominion. This grim revelation is at the heart of the community's endless, agonizing debate. Who is the right choice? The answer is that there is no good outcome. A Stormcloak victory secures religious freedom at the cost of empowering a racist regime and fracturing the only military force capable of standing against the Falmer. An Imperial victory preserves that military unity, but validates a policy of religious persecution and appeasement. It's a choice between a flawed freedom and a tyrannical peace. Many players, faced with this impossible decision, have embraced a theory that the only winning move is not to play. They begin the Peace Council in High Hrothgar as part of the main quest, forcing a temporary truce, and then simply stop. They never finish the war. They allow the stalemate to become permanent, a headcanon where the Dragonborn uses their immense authority to force both sides to stand down, preserving their strength for the real wars to come, against the dragons, and then inevitably against the Thalmor waiting in the wings. For the Dragonborn, the war teaches a politician's lesson, not a hero's. It teaches that some choices are not between good and evil, but between two different kinds of loss. After navigating the bleak and impersonal chessboard of the Civil War, where they are but a single powerful piece in a game played by distant forces, the Dragonborn might begin to feel the profound weight of their own solitude. A destiny like theirs is a lonely one, set apart from the common folk by the very power meant to protect them. In the quiet moments between battles, camped under the twin moons of Massa and Secunda, the silence of the wilderness can be as daunting as the roar of a dragon. It is in these moments that the Dragonborn learns another crucial lesson. You do not have to be alone. Skyrim is full of those willing to walk beside you, to lend their sword to your cause, and perhaps most importantly, to carry your burdens. For many, the journey into companionship begins in Whiterun, within the Great Hall of Dragon's Reach. After proving their worth to the Jarl, they are granted the title of Thane, an honor that comes with land, a weapon, and a person. Her name is Lydia. She steps forward, clad in solid steel, her face set in a stoic, almost grim expression. She pledges her life and her shield to the new Thane, her voice a low, serious monotone. She becomes the Dragonborn's shadow, a constant presence in a world of fleeting encounters. The core, in-game fact of followers is immediately apparent in its utility. Lydia is a second blade in a desperate fight, drawing the attention of a hulking Drag while the Dragonborn readies a spell. She is a torchbearer in the oppressive darkness of a Nordic ruin, her light a small comfort against the encroaching shadows. And of course, she is a walking, talking storage container. She is the one dutifully tasked with hauling the 15 dragon bones, the 7 dwarven greatswords, the 32 flawless amethysts, and the inexplicable collection of cheese wheels that the Dragonborn simply cannot bear to leave behind. To see a follower as merely a pack mule with a sword, however, is to miss the subtle humanity that breathes within them. They are not mindless automatons. The dark elf mage Mercurio, hired in Riften, is arrogant and quick to remind you of his superior magical talent. Mijol the lioness, a warrior found in the same city, speaks with righteous fury about the corruption of the Thieves' Guild and will refuse to enter their headquarters. Cicero, the keeper of the Night Mother's coffin, is a giggling, capering lunatic whose cheerful pronouncements on murder are as unsettling as they are occasionally amusing. Each follower carries their own small fragment of a story, their own moral compass, and their own personality. They will comment on the beauty of a sunset over the Karth River, or complain about the damp cold of a dripping cave. These small interjections, these sparks of life, transform them from a simple game mechanic into a companion, a witness to the Dragonborn's epic journey. The bond with a housecarl like Lydia runs deeper still, rooted in the most sacred traditions of Nord culture. Her pledge is not a mercenary's contract. As an obscure text like Thans of Skyrim might explain, the role of a housecarl is one of immense honor and unbreakable fealty. They are shield brothers and shield sisters, bound by an oath that is considered more sacred than family ties. When Lydia pledges her life to the Dragonborn, it is a literal and absolute commitment. Her life no longer belongs to her. It is a resource to be spent in the defense of her Thane. Her purpose, her entire identity, is now inextricably linked to the Dragonborn's survival. She is not a bodyguard for hire. She is a willing sacrifice, the living embodiment of a holy vow. This ancient, solemn tradition recontextualizes her entire presence. She is not just following the Dragonborn, she is fulfilling her life's highest calling. This understanding is the key to unlocking one of the community's oldest and most affectionate debates, centered on a single line of dialogue. When the Dragonborn asks Lydia to trade items, she often replies with a flat, seemingly exasperated tone, "I am sworn to carry your burdens." For years, players have interpreted this as sarcasm, a passive-aggressive complaint from a warrior forced to act as a porter. But a more charitable and law-friendly fan theory suggests we are witnessing a profound cultural misunderstanding. The theory posits that Lydia is not being sarcastic at all. She is a stoic Nord, raised in a culture that values deeds over words, and she is making a simple, earnest declaration of her sacred duty. She isn't just talking about the dwarven armor and giant's toes. She is sworn to carry all of your burdens, the physical weight of your loot, the emotional weight of your destiny, the very real weight of an enemy's axe, which she will catch on her shield to protect you. It is not a complaint. It is a reaffirmation of her oath, the deepest expression of loyalty a warrior like her knows how to articulate. Her tone isn't weary, it's solemn. Lydia is but one face in a gallery of potential allies. The Dragonborn's journey might lead them to the vampire Serana, a companion of unparalleled depth, whose tragic family history and evolving personality create one of the most compelling relationships in the entire land. Or they might fall in with the members of the Companions, who view each other as shield siblings, a family forged in battle. They might even hire a sellsword in a tavern, whose loyalty is as deep as their coin purse and no deeper. Each of these relationships teaches the Dragonborn a different lesson about trust, loyalty, and the nature of friendship. In a world that seems determined to isolate them on a pinnacle of power, their followers keep them grounded. They are a reminder that no legend is written alone, and that even the mighty Dragonborn is made stronger by the quiet, steadfast presence of a friend watching their back. From the reassuring warmth of a campfire, shared with a loyal friend, our journey now turns down a darker path, into the chilling shadow cast by powers far older than the mountains of Skyrim. The Dragonborn, secure in the knowledge that a trusted follower watches their back, may grow bold. They may come to believe that their power, their Thu'um, and their growing collection of enchanted steel makes them a master of this land. But there are other masters, beings who watch the struggles of mortals from their own twisted planes of reality. These are the Daedric princes, and their interest in the Dragonborn is not one of kinship, but of amusement. To catch their eye is to become a pawn in a divine game, and the prizes they offer are always, without exception, cursed. The first encounter is often subtle. The Dragonborn may find a strange geometric beacon on a forgotten road, and hear a voice boom down from the heavens, a commanding, imperious light that demands they cleanse her temple. Or they may stumble upon a derelict house in Markarth, where a malevolent entity demands they submit to his will. Perhaps they will meet a distraught jester on the road, or a talking dog who is far more than he seems. These are the hooks, the invitations into the 17 nightmarish pocket dimensions of oblivion. The core fact of these quests is the irresistible temptation they present. By serving a Daedric prince, the Dragonborn is rewarded with a Daedric artifact, an item of legendary power. There is the Wobberjack, the staff of the mad god Shigarath, which can turn a fearsome bandit chief into a harmless block of cheese. There is the mace of Molag Bal, an unholy weapon that not only crushes bone but traps the very soul of its victim. There is Azura's star, a soul gem that can never be depleted. These are not mere tools, they are legends made manifest, and the desire to possess them is a powerful lure, drawing the Dragonborn down a path from which there is no clean return. For every gift, there is a price, and the currency the Daedra demand is blood, betrayal, and mortal sanity. The tasks they set are not heroic endeavors. To earn the favor of Boethia, the prince of plots and deceit, the Dragonborn must first gain the complete trust of a follower. They must lead this friend, perhaps the steadfast Lydia, or the eager mage Mercurio, to a remote altar, and there, under the setting sun, they must sacrifice them, plunging a blade into the back of someone whose only crime was loyalty. To become the champion of Namira, the Lady of Decay, the Dragonborn must indulge in cannibalism, feasting on the dead with a coven of ghouls. To serve Varnina, the Weaver of Dreams, they must unleash a tide of nightmares upon a sleeping populace. Each quest is a systematic dismantling of the hero's moral compass. The Dragonborn is commanded to lie, to murder, to betray, to desecrate, all for the promise of a shiny new toy for their collection. It is tempting to label these beings as simply evil, but that is a mortal definition, and it is wholly inadequate for describing the nature of the Daedra. An obscure but vital piece of lore explains that the princes operate on a spectrum of morality so alien, it can only be described as blue and orange. They are not evil, they are their spheres. Molag Bal, the prince of domination, is not cruel for the sake of being cruel. He is the living embodiment of the concept of domination, and every action he takes is an expression of that fundamental nature. To expect him to be merciful is like expecting a river not to be wet. As texts like On Oblivion suggest, they are beings of pure concept, unburdened by empathy or ethics. Immerse Mora is not malevolent because he hoards knowledge. He is the concept of hoarding knowledge, a cosmic librarian for whom mortals are merely interesting, tearable pages. This makes them infinitely more terrifying than a simple villain. They cannot be redeemed. They cannot be reasoned with. To interact with a Daedric prince is to interact with a living, thinking force of nature, a sentient hurricane that finds your screams interesting. This, inevitably, leads to a dark and persistent fan theory, a debate that calls into question the very nature of the hero's journey. After completing these 17 tasks, after betraying a friend, desecrating a temple, tormenting the innocent, and feasting on human flesh, can the last Dragonborn truly be called a hero? Or have they become Skyrim's most accomplished monster, a ruthless opportunist who has bartered away their humanity piece by piece for power? One theory suggests that the Dragonborn is, in fact, the villain of the story, their quest to slay Alduin merely a convenient excuse for their insatiable acquisition of power. A counter-argument offers a sliver of hope. It posits that the Dragonborn's soul, that unique draconic essence, is so powerful and so alien in its own right that it grants them a unique immunity. Perhaps they can wield the ebony blade without succumbing to its whispers of betrayal, or serve Immerse Mora without having their sanity flayed from their mind. In this view, the Dragonborn is not a pawn of the Daedra, but a master manipulator, cleverly playing 17 different cosmic horrors against each other, taking their power without ever truly surrendering their own will. They are not serving the Daedra, they are using them. Whichever is true, the lesson remains a chilling one. The Daedric quests teach the Dragonborn that the world is much larger and stranger than they imagined, and that not all power is worth the price. The artifacts they collect hum with a dark energy, a constant reminder of the horrific deeds performed to obtain them. They are a gallery of sins, a testament to the hero's capacity for darkness. In their quest for power, the Dragonborn learns that the most dangerous monsters are not always the ones with scales and claws, but the ones who offer you gifts. After bargaining with the cosmic horrors of oblivion, the Dragonborn's soul feels tainted, their mind a cacophony of whispers and mad invitations. To quiet the noise, they might seek solace not in a temple or a tavern, but in the vast, open plains of Skyrim's heartland. Out on the tundra of Whiterun Hold, under the endless sky, the world feels simpler. The wind whispers through the dry grass, and the only sounds are the cry of a distant hawk and the crunch of snow underfoot. It is here, in this quiet expanse, that the Dragonborn will encounter another of Skyrim's great powers. They are not gods or demons. They are the giants. They move with a ponderous grace, their huge humanoid forms silhouetted against the horizon, walking alongside their even larger companions, the woolly mammoths. The first and most immediate lesson the giants teach is one of spatial awareness. Every traveler, from the greenest adventurer to the most seasoned mercenary, learns the fundamental rule of the tundra: you leave the giants alone, and they will leave you alone. This is the core fact of their existence. They are not aggressive predators. They are placid, nomadic shepherds, content to wander the plains, tending to their herds. A Dragonborn can walk within 100 yards of a giant's camp and be met with nothing more than a curious, slow turn of the head. But there is an invisible line, a sacred perimeter, around their camps and their mammoths. To cross that line is to break an unspoken ancient treaty. The consequences for this transgression are swift, absolute, and famous throughout the land. With a roar of fury, the giant will lift its enormous tree trunk of a club, and with a single, contemptuous swing, send the Dragonborn on a brief but memorable journey into the stratosphere. There is no negotiation. There is only the sudden, shocking realization that you have trespassed, followed by a spectacular view of the world from 1,000 feet up. If the Dragonborn chooses to observe from a respectful distance, however, a more complex picture emerges. These are not the mindless brutes that campfire stories make them out to be. There is a quiet industry to their camps. They are not just wandering, they are living. The Dragonborn will see them methodically stirring the contents of huge stone bowls, seemingly making a form of cheese. They will see them tending to the health of their mammoths, their huge hands surprisingly gentle as they check the beasts for injuries. And most mysteriously, they will see the giants gathered around large solitary rocks, carefully painting them with swirling ochre glyphs. These are not the actions of simple monsters. This is the behavior of a people with a culture, a purpose, and a set of traditions that are as ancient as the rocks themselves. Delving into the fragments of lore that the scholars of Tamriel have gathered, a portrait of a rich and mysterious civilization begins to form. The book Giants, a discourse speculates that they are not only intelligent, but may in fact be a divergent race of men, sharing a common ancestor with the Nords in the ancient land of Atamara. They are a nomadic people whose entire existence revolves around what is called the mammoth cycle. The mammoths are not just their property, they are the center of their universe. They provide the giants with food, milk, and the hides for their simple clothes. The strange symbols they paint on rocks and animal bones are thought to be a form of language, or perhaps a shamanistic religion, each glyph a story or a prayer. They live in a way that the civilized races have long forgotten, a life of complete symbiosis with the natural world. They do not build castles or forge steel, not because they are incapable, but because they have no need of them. This has led the more thoughtful students of the world to a powerful fan theory that the giants are not primitive, but post-primitive. Their simple, silent way of life is not a sign of ignorance, but of a profound and ancient wisdom. The theory suggests that the giants are a deeply intelligent, perhaps even spiritual race, who have consciously chosen to live in harmony with the land. Their silence is not stupidity, but contemplation. Their lack of complex technology is not a failing, but a rejection of the frantic, destructive path the other races have taken. That strange cheese they make, perhaps it is not food at all, but a sacred, ritualistic substance. The giants in this view are not savages. They are monks, sages, a quiet reminder of a more peaceful way of being that the world of men and myrrh has lost. They are a living relic of a forgotten age, and their seeming simplicity is a mark of their grace. There is a deep melancholy to their existence. They are an old race, and they are dying. The Dragonborn finds their camps scattered across the land, but never a city, never a town. They are being slowly but surely pushed to the margins of the world, their grazing lands encroached upon by farms and forts. When the companions of Joruska send the Dragonborn to kill a giant as part of a contract, it is framed as a heroic test of strength. But with this deeper understanding, it feels less like a heroic deed and more like a senseless tragedy. The culling of a majestic and endangered species, the giants' fierce defense of their territory, is not born of innate aggression, but of a desperate need to protect the little they have left. The unspoken pact they offer is the last treaty of a fading people. The Dragonborn learns that true strength often lies not in conquering, but in understanding, and that some of the land's most profound secrets are kept by those who never speak a word. Having walked with giants and bargained with demons, the Dragonborn may find themselves seeking a power that is neither of the earth nor of the abyss. They have seen the raw, physical authority of the giants who claim the land, and the twisted, manipulative authority of the Daedric princes who covet the souls that walk upon it. But what of the gods the people of Skyrim actually worship? What of the divines? To find them, the Dragonborn must enter a city, step out of the chaotic wilderness or the whispering darkness, and find a temple. Inside, there is no booming voice, no demand for sacrifice. There is only the quiet scent of incense, the gentle murmur of a priest's prayer, and the silent, stone gaze of the gods who built the world. The contrast with the Daedra is the first most striking lesson. The Daedric princes are loud, vain and needy, constantly demanding attention and service. The divines are quiet. This is the core fact of their worship. Their influence is subtle, a gentle grace that touches the world rather than shaking it. The Dragonborn can approach a great stone shrine to Kinnereth, the goddess of the winds and sky, and receive a simple blessing of enhanced stamina. They can wear an amulet of Mara, the goddess of love, and find that people are slightly more receptive to their words. They can pray at the altar of Zenithar, the god of labor, and feel a renewed strength for the hard work of smithing. These are not grand reality-bending miracles. They are small comforts, quiet reassurances. The quests given by their temples are not about murder and betrayal, but about kindness and compassion. The priestess of Mara does not ask the Dragonborn to kill a rival. She asks them to help two lovers separated by fate, to act as an agent of connection, not destruction. This pantheon, Akatosh, the dragon god of time, Dibella, the goddess of beauty, Julianos, the god of wisdom, and the others, forms the very foundation of the world. Their presence is not felt in direct explosive intervention, but in the fabric of existence. Akatosh's influence is the steady, implacable march of seconds into minutes, and minutes into ages. Kinnereth's is the rustle of leaves in the autumn wind, and the life-giving rain that falls on the plains. Zenithar's is the satisfying ring of a blacksmith's hammer on steel. They are not external forces acting upon the world. They are the world itself. They are the principles, the concepts, and the very laws of nature that hold reality together. Their worship is a quiet act of acknowledging this grand, silent architecture. To understand their profound silence, one must journey back to the creation of the world, a story told in the most obscure and sacred texts. In the dawn of time, there were two primordial forces, the spirits who would become the Daedra and the spirits who would become the Aedra. When the plan to create the mortal plane, Mundus, was proposed, the Daedra refused. They wished to preserve their power, their infinity, their autonomy. The Aedra, however, chose to give. They sacrificed pieces of their own divine essence, their own being, to become the framework of the new world. This is the concept of anuesial, the state of being bound by the finite rules of the creation you have made. The Aedra are not absent. They are profoundly, irrevocably present. Their power was not spent, but invested into the very bones of the earth, the physics of light and gravity, the cycles of life and death. They cannot speak with a single, booming voice, because their voice is now the roar of every waterfall and the whisper of every breeze. Their silence is not a sign of indifference. It is the quiet, tireless hum of their eternal sacrifice. This subtle nature has led to a simmering debate among the faithful and the skeptical alike. In a world of dragons, Daedric invasions and civil war, are the divines simply too weak to matter anymore? This fan theory suggests that the gods of the Empire are in a state of decline. The Oblivion Crisis, which ended only when Martin Septim shattered the Amulet of Kings and became a fiery avatar of Akatosh, may have been the last great expenditure of their power. Perhaps, the theory goes, they have withdrawn, leaving mortals to their own devices. Their blessings are seen as nothing more than a placebo, a trick of the faithful mind. Another school of thought, however, argues that this is a fundamental misunderstanding of their power. Their influence isn't meant to be a weapon for an adventurer. It is a foundational grace. The power of Mara is not in a magical spell, but in the genuine love that binds a family together. The power of Zenithar is not in an enchanted hammer, but in the satisfaction of honest labor. The divines do not intervene because their intervention is constant and all-encompassing. Their power requires faith, not because faith fuels them, but because faith is what allows a mortal to perceive the grace that is already there. Nowhere is this debate more potent than in the question of Talus. The Falmer's insistence that a man could not become a god is a direct challenge to the very nature of the divines. Yet, any Dragonborn who finds a hidden shrine to Talus, even after his worship has been outlawed, can receive his blessing, a cooldown for their shouts, a gift directly related to his own nature as a Dragonborn. This quiet, persistent miracle, a direct contradiction to the Aldmeri Dominion's decree, is perhaps the strongest argument that the divines are not gone. Their power may be faint, and their grace may be fading in a world that seems to be forgetting them, but for those who seek it, it is still there. The lesson the divines teach is one of faith and subtlety. They show the Dragonborn that the greatest powers are not always the ones that make the most noise, and that the world is held together not by epic battles, but by quiet, constant, and often unnoticed acts of creation. Having felt the quiet, life-affirming grace of the divines, the Dragonborn might come to believe they understand the spiritual landscape of Skyrim. They have felt the comfort of faith, a power rooted in creation and light. But in the dark places of the world, in a mouldering crypt, a forgotten ruin, a shadowy alleyway, another kind of eternity awaits. It is not a gift of grace, but a curse of contagion. One desperate fight against a gaunt, unnaturally fast foe, one scratch from a blackened nail, and the Dragonborn's life is changed forever. At first, it is a simple sickness, a strange fever that brings with it unsettling, blood-soaked dreams. Then, after 3 days of tossing and turning, the fever breaks. The Dragonborn awakens into the night, and they are no longer truly alive. The first moments of vampirism are a revelation of power. This is the core experience of the curse. The world, once shrouded in darkness, is now perfectly clear, as if a veil has been lifted. The Dragonborn's movements are unnaturally silent, their footsteps making no sound on the cold stone floor. They feel a new cold strength in their muscles, and a strange affinity for the subtle magics of illusion. But then, the sun begins to rise. Its first rays, cresting the distant mountains, do not bring the promise of a new day. They bring agony. The touch of sunlight on the Dragonborn's skin is a searing, debilitating pain, a holy fire that saps their strength and boils their unnatural blood. This is the first term of the covenant. You may have the night, but you will forever be an exile from the day. And with this new weakness comes a new terrible hunger. Food no longer satiates, drink no longer quenches. There is only a deep, gnawing thirst for the one thing that can sustain this new existence, the blood of the living. This thirst is the root of the true curse of vampirism, the profound, inescapable loneliness. To be a vampire is to be a predator, hiding in plain sight. The Dragonborn must now look upon the very people they are sworn to protect, the cheerful merchants, the hard-working farmers, the boisterous warriors in the mead hall, as mere cattle. Their warmth, their laughter, their vibrant life is a constant, tantalizing reminder of everything the vampire has lost. If the hunger grows too strong, if the vampire's self-control falters, their civilized mask slips. Their features become gaunt, their eyes glow with a predatory light, and the townsfolk will no longer see a hero. They will see a monster, and they will react with screams, with terror, and with the cold, hard steel of their swords and axes. Vampirism is therefore a life lived in the shadows, a constant struggle to appear normal, to resist an urge that is as fundamental as breathing. It is the curse of being forever an outsider, watching the warm, sunlit world of mortals from a cold, eternal distance. This profane existence has an appropriately horrific origin, a piece of obscure lore that reveals the true nature of the curse. Vampirism is not a natural disease. It is a spiritual desecration, a calculated act of spite by the Daedric prince of domination, Molag Bal. The very first vampire was not a willing participant, but a victim. Her name was Lame Beal Fag, a Nedic priestess of Arche, the god of life and death. In an act of ultimate blasphemy, Molag Bal appeared before her and brutally violated her, leaving her for dead in a pool of her own blood. But she did not die. She rose again, transformed into the first vampire, her undeath a mockery of Arce's domain, her bloodthirst a perversion of life itself. As the ancient text Opusculus Lamé Bal recounts, she became a creature of vengeance, hating her creator Molag Bal, hating the indifferent god Arce, and despising the mortal life she had been torn from. Every vampire in Tamriel is a spiritual descendant of that first terrible violation. Their curse is the echo of a Daedric prince's hatred for creation, for the Dragonborn. This path of damnation is not the only one available. There is another great curse one can embrace, lycanthropy, the gift of the Daedric prince here seen. This choice has been the subject of endless debate among those who court the darkness. To be a werewolf is to embrace a hot-blooded, savage fury. It is the power of the beast, a temporary transformation into a whirlwind of claws and fangs. To be a vampire, by contrast, is to embrace a cold, calculating, and eternal power. It is the power of the puppeteer, the immortal aristocrat who manipulates the world from the shadows. The debate is not merely one of combat effectiveness, but of competing fantasies, the raw, untamed power of the predator versus the subtle, insidious power of the parasite. The werewolf is a force of nature. The vampire is a force of intrigue. Should the Dragonborn truly commit to the vampiric path, they may find their way to the Volkihar clan, a coven of ancient and powerful vampire lords. Theirs is not the base curse of the common blood fiend. It is a purer strain, a direct gift from Molag Bal that allows them to transform into a monstrous winged creature of the night. As a vampire lord, the Dragonborn can wield forbidden blood magic, command legions of gargoyles and the undead, and truly ascend to a new terrifying state of being. It is the ultimate expression of the vampiric curse, a complete and total shedding of one's mortal shell. The lesson the Dragonborn learns from this dark covenant is a bitter one. Immortality is not life. It is an unending lonely vigil, a cold eternity spent watching the world of warmth and light slowly turn to dust. Emerging from the profound darkness of the vampiric curse, a path defined by solitary predation, the Dragonborn might seek a different kind of shadow. They may grow weary of the grim, isolated business of survival, and instead seek the camaraderie of the like-minded, a society built on shared secrets and a common, illicit purpose. In the rough-and-tumble city of Riften, a place built over a swamp of intrigue and corruption, they will hear whispers of such a society, the Thieves' Guild, seeking them out. The Dragonborn will descend from the open world into the claustrophobic, dripping tunnels of the Ratway, and in the gloomy tavern known as the Ragged Flagon, they will find that the life of a thief is far from the glamorous adventure that stories might suggest. The first, unavoidable fact is that the Thieves' Guild is failing. The grand organization spoken of in legends is nowhere to be found. In its place is a small, desperate crew of pickpockets and burglars, huddled in a sewer, arguing over small-time jobs and dwindling coin. The members are cynical, the leadership is aloof, and a palpable air of decay hangs over them, like the stench from the tunnels. Their leader, the charismatic but arrogant Mercer Frey, speaks of discipline and skill, but his guild is falling apart at the seams. Everyone whispers of a curse, of a streak of debilitating bad luck that has plagued them for years. Their best-laid plans go awry, their infiltrations are discovered, and their once legendary fortune has dwindled to almost nothing. This is the guild the Dragonborn joins, not a thriving criminal empire, but a sinking ship, its crew bailing water with thimbles. At first, the work seems straightforward enough. The Dragonborn is sent to shake down merchants for protection money, to break into homes to steal specific trinkets, to plant incriminating evidence on rivals. They learn the rhythm of the shadows, the art of the silent footstep and the quick hand. They prove their worth, showing a natural talent for larceny that impresses the guild's weary veterans. Yet, with every successful job, the larger picture of failure only becomes clearer. The guild itself does not recover. The pervasive bad luck continues to dog them. It becomes obvious that this is not a problem that can be solved with a few successful heists. There is a sickness in the heart of the guild, a deeper malaise that has nothing to do with the skill of its members. The truth, when it is revealed, is a stunning piece of obscure lore that redefines the very nature of the organization. The Thieves' Guild is not, and has never been, a simple criminal syndicate. They are, and have always been, a quasi-religious order in service to a Daedric prince, Nocturnal, the mistress of night, the unknowable. Their legendary success in years past was not merely the result of skill and daring. It was a divine blessing, a gift of supernatural luck bestowed upon them by their dark patron. As the in-game books about the Nightingales reveal, the guild has a secret inner circle, a trinity of its most dedicated members, who are sworn directly to Nocturnal's service. They are not just thieves, they are the guardians of her temples, the agents of her will in the mortal world. The Ragged Flagon is not just a headquarters, it is the public face of a secret covenant. This revelation is the key to understanding the guild's decline, and it feeds into a powerful fan theory about the very nature of luck in the world of the Elder Scrolls. The guild's bad luck is not a metaphor for a series of unfortunate events. It is a literal, tangible drought. The theory posits that luck is a quantifiable force, a divine energy that flows from Nocturnal into the world. The conduit for this energy, the focal point of her blessing upon the guild, has always been her artifact, the Skeleton Key. When Mercer Frey betrayed the guild, he did not just steal a valuable master key, he stole their very fortune. He traveled to the Twilight Sepulchre, the sacred temple of Nocturnal, and desecrated it, taking the key and severing the guild's connection to its patron. He did not just commit a theft, he committed an act of profound sacrilege. The bad luck they have been experiencing is the direct result of this broken pact. The river of Nocturnal's favor has been dammed at its source. The Dragonborn's journey through the guild culminates in a moment of profound transformation. They are led to a hidden cavern, and there, alongside a redeemed Carlier and a skeptical Brynjolf, they are inducted into the Order of the Nightingales. In a ceremony shrouded in shadow and mystery, they pledge their soul to the Nocturnal's service. In this life and the next, they are given the iconic Nightingale armor, a suit forged from the very essence of shadow, and are tasked with the sacred duty of undoing Mercer's betrayal. The quest is no longer about restoring the guild's finances. It is about restoring a broken covenant with a god. It is a holy war fought in the dark. The lesson of the Thieves' Guild is that even among the most cynical and worldly of people, faith is the ultimate currency. The greatest treasure they ever possessed was not gold or jewels, but the favor of their dark mistress. The Dragonborn, now a sworn agent of shadow, must undertake the greatest heist of all, to steal back the very concept of luck itself. After a journey through the shadowy world of the Thieves' Guild, a life dependent on the fickle favor of a Daedric Prince of Luck, the Dragonborn may begin to yearn for a different kind of power. They have bartered with gods, sworn oaths in darkness, and put their fate in the hands of others. Now, they might seek a power that is entirely their own, a power that can be grown, cultivated, and created from the very soil of Skyrim. They will find this power not in a crypt or a castle, but in the humble petals of a mountain flower, the iridescent wings of a butterfly, and the gnarled cap of a glowing mushroom. This is the path of the alchemist, and it is the truest, most self-made road to godhood that Skyrim has to offer. It begins, as all great journeys do, with a single step. The Dragonborn, perhaps for the first time, looks at the world not as a landscape to be conquered, but as a garden to be harvested. They pick a purple mountain flower from the slopes of the throat of the world. They catch a monarch butterfly as it flits over the plains of Whiterun. They wade into a cold river to snatch a salmon. This is the core, in-game fact of alchemy. It is the art of turning the mundane into the miraculous. At a strange, bubbling laboratory, a collection of glass beakers and brass tubes, the Dragonborn combines two ingredients. There is a soft, bubbling sound, a puff of vapor, and in their hands is a simple, cloudy liquid, a potion. Perhaps it heals a minor wound, or restores a sliver of magicka. It is an unimpressive, almost trivial beginning, but it is the first taste of a power that can, and will, eventually dwarf all others. The first sign of this power is not felt on the battlefield, but in the marketplace. The Dragonborn quickly learns that while a single flower is worthless, a combination of the right ingredients can be worth a fortune. A short walk through the tundra, gathering blue mountain flowers and blue butterfly wings, can yield a dozen potions that sell for more than a bandit chief's entire horde. A trek into the plains to find the toes of a giant and the wheat from a farm results in a concoction so valuable that a single vial can finance the purchase of a house. The alchemist soon realizes they have no need to delve into dangerous dungeons in search of treasure. They are a walking treasure generator. They have mastered the ultimate economic engine, turning the free, abundant resources of the wild into piles of glittering gold. They are not just an adventurer, they are an entrepreneur, a captain of an industry whose only employee is themselves, and whose only factory is the alchemy table. With wealth comes security, but true power is proven in combat. As the alchemist's skill grows, their creations become exponentially more potent. Simple healing draughts become elixirs that can instantly mend even the most grievous wounds. They can brew potions that grant the user true invisibility, that make their skin as hard as ebony, or that allow them to regenerate health with supernatural speed. But the true terror of the master alchemist lies in their poisons. Imagine a warrior, clad head to toe in Daedric armor, wielding a legendary enchanted axe. They are a walking avatar of destruction, but the alchemist, with a single well-placed arrow tipped with their creation, can bring that warrior to their knees. A potent paralysis poison can turn the most fearsome foe into a helpless, rigid statue. A lingering damage health poison can melt away the vitality of a dragon priest, leaving them a husk of dust and bone. The alchemist is the master of the battlefield, not through brute force, but through subtle, undeniable, and agonizing control. This mastery of the physical world hints at a deeper, more spiritual discipline. Obscure lore suggests that true alchemy is not just a craft but a philosophical journey. And a master alchemist, according to texts like A Game at Dinner, is not merely mixing reagents. They are communing with the fundamental principles of creation. Each ingredient possesses what they call the earth bones, the divine essence of the Aedra, who sacrificed themselves to create the world. To combine them successfully is to understand their hidden nature, to glimpse the divine architecture of reality. The ultimate goal of the Grand Master, the magnum opus, is not a physical potion, but a state of perfect understanding, a form of enlightenment that brings the alchemist into harmony with the very soul of the world. It is a path to apotheosis through chemistry. For the Dragonborn, however, this path to godhood can be a much more literal and much more broken one. This is the subject of a legendary fan theory and exploit, a piece of forbidden knowledge that shatters the game's reality. It is called the Restoration Loop. The Dragonborn discovers that a potion of Fortify Restoration does not just enhance healing spells, it enhances all magical effects, including the enchantments on their own gear. A sinister feedback loop is born. The Dragonborn, wearing clothes enchanted with Fortify Alchemy, drinks a Fortify Restoration potion. This makes their enchantments stronger. Now, they craft a new, even more powerful Fortify Restoration potion. They drink it, and the cycle begins anew, escalating into absurdity. Within minutes, they can craft a potion that fortifies their smithing skill by 5,000,000%, allowing them to create a simple iron dagger that can kill a god. They can brew a poison of such astronomical toxicity that a single scratch can instantly drain the life from the mightiest dragon. This is the moment the alchemist ceases to be a player and becomes a bug in the system. a mortal who has used the world's own rules to achieve a state of broken, unlimited, and truly terrifying power. The lesson of alchemy is a potent one. The world is a system of secrets, and with enough knowledge, that system can be bent, broken, and utterly dominated. Having mastered the sunlit world through the patient art of alchemy, the Dragonborn may come to believe they know the secrets of the earth. They have learned the properties of every flower, the power hidden in every fungus that grows on the damp bark of a fallen tree. But the surface of Skyrim is just one page in a much older, darker book. There are secrets buried deeper in the black, unbreathing parts of the world, far from the warmth of the sun. Driven by the search for a rare ingredient, or the simple, foolish curiosity of the adventurer, the Dragonborn will eventually descend. They will push past the familiar, drag-haunted Nordic tombs and venture into the deeper veins of the world, into the vast, echoing silence of a Dwemer ruin. And it is here they will learn that they are not alone in the dark. The first encounter with the Falmer is a lesson in primal fear. It begins not with a sight, but with a sound, a wet, chittering click that echoes unnervingly down a long stone corridor. Then, a glimpse of movement in the shadows. A pale, hunched shape scuttles across the floor, its movements unnaturally swift, more insect than man. When it finally emerges into the Dragonborn's torchlight, the sight is a thing of nightmares. It is a twisted, degenerate caricature of an elf, its skin a sickly translucent white, its teeth filed into predatory points. But the most horrifying feature is the face. Where its eyes should be, there is only scarred, empty flesh. It is utterly, irrevocably blind. This is the core, in-game fact of the Falmer. They are the blind, monstrous goblins of the deep, a subterranean menace to be fought and slain. Their dens are places of squalor, decorated with crude, chitinous totems and the gnawed bones of unlucky adventurers. They seem to be nothing more than beasts, another obstacle in the Dragonborn's path. Yet, as the Dragonborn ventures deeper into this underground kingdom, slaying Falmer by the dozen, a strange and unsettling picture begins to form. These are not mindless beasts. They live in organized tribes, with warriors, workers, and powerful shamans who wield strange and dangerous magic. They raise a species of giant venomous insect called the chorus as livestock, penning them like cattle. They cultivate vast, glowing mushroom farms in the darkness. A crude but effective form of agriculture. Their armor, crafted from the shells of their insect herds, is ornate and disturbingly beautiful. There is a society here, a savage and alien civilization, and with it, a profound question. Where did these creatures come from? The answer to that question is one of the greatest and most heartbreaking tragedies in the history of Tamriel. It is an obscure piece of lore, a truth hidden so deep that only a handful of souls in all of Skyrim are aware of it. The Falmer were not always monsters. They were once the Snow Elves, a proud, beautiful, and powerful race of Myr, who were the first civilized inhabitants of Skyrim. Before the Nords ever set foot on this land, the Snow Elves built magnificent cities of ice and snow, and their mastery of magic was said to rival that of the High Elves of Somerset. But then the Nords came, led by the legendary Whiskermore, and a long and bitter war was fought. The Nords, with their martial fury, were victorious, and the Snow Elf civilization was shattered, its people scattered and hunted to the brink of extinction. Desperate and broken, the last remnants of the Snow Elves sought refuge with their cousins, the Dwemer, the so-called Deep Elves who lived in magnificent brass cities far beneath the mountains. The Dwemer, a race known for their logic, their cruelty, and their complete lack of sentimentality, agreed to grant them shelter. But their generosity came with a horrific price. To ensure their new guests would never rise up against them, the Dwemer forced the Snow Elves to consume a toxic fungus, a breed native to the deepest parts of Blackreach. The fungus did not kill them. It destroyed their sight, leaving them blind and helpless. This was the great betrayal. Over generations of servitude, living as slaves in the dark, The once proud Snow Elves began to change. Their bodies twisted, their minds eroded, their sophisticated culture forgotten. They became the Falmer. When the Thu'um mysteriously vanished from the world, it was not a liberation for their slaves, it was an abandonment. The Falmer were left to rot in the dark, the devolved blind inheritors of their masters' silent, empty cities. This tragic history reframes the Dragonborn's every encounter with them, but it is their future that is the subject of a truly terrifying fan theory. The theory suggests that the Falmer are not a static, devolved race. They are a new civilization on the rise. We are witnessing the birth of a nation in the dark. The evidence is all there. Their organized social structures, their agriculture, their animal husbandry, their constant, increasingly bold raids on the surface are not random attacks. They are scouting missions. They are testing the defenses of the Sun world. The theory posits that the Falmer are slowly regaining their intelligence, their memories filtered through generations of savagery and hatred. In a few hundred years, they may no longer be a scattered collection of tribes. They may be a unified, subterranean empire, their minds as sharp as their ancestors, but their souls filled with a venomous, burning hatred for the surface dwellers who drove them into the darkness so long ago. The Dragonborn is not just clearing out a nest of monsters, they are fighting the vanguard of a future war. The chittering in the darkness is the sound of a fallen people learning how to stand up again. After crawling through the claustrophobic darkness and confronting the tragic history of the Falmer, the Dragonborn emerges, blinking into the sunlight. Their mind is filled with the weight of that ancient sorrow, a story of a people brought low. But as they gaze up at the vast, open sky of Skyrim, they are reminded of another history, a much older and more glorious one, and of the conflict that defines their very existence. A shadow falls over the land, vast and swift. A roar echoes from the mountaintops, a sound that is not born of animal rage, but of ancient, absolute authority. The dragons have returned, and it is time to remember that the greatest threats to this world come not from below, but from above. The first time the Dragonborn witnesses a dragon attack, it is an event of pure primal terror. A creature of myth and legend, a thing of scales and fire, tears itself from the sky to fall upon the world of men. It is not an animal hunting for food, it is an artillery piece with wings, a sentient siege engine whose only purpose seems to be destruction and domination. The core fact of their return is this raw, overwhelming power. Then comes the battle, a desperate, chaotic dance of shouting magic and steel against a force of nature. And when the final blow lands and the great beast crashes to the earth, the true miracle occurs. The dragon does not simply die, its physical form, its skin and scales, begins to burn away in a torrent of magical fire, leaving behind only a pristine, heavy skeleton, and from the immolating corpse, a river of brilliant light, a screaming gale of pure energy and knowledge, flows from the dragon and into the Dragonborn. They have not just killed a beast, they have consumed its soul. This singular act, the absorption of a dragon's soul, is the first and most important clue that these creatures are far more than they appear. One can slay a giant, a mammoth, a daedra, but their soul does not become a part of you. The dragons are different. Their death is not an end, but a transference. Their very essence is a form of power, a key that unlocks the latent words of their language dormant in the Dragonborn's own blood. This profound metaphysical event hints at a divine truth, a secret about their nature that is guarded by the oldest and wisest of their kind. On the peak of the throat of the world, amidst a blizzard that rages for eternity, this secret is revealed. The dragons, the dove, are not mere reptiles, however powerful, as obscure lore and the teachings of their master, Parthenax, explain. They are the children of Akatosh, the great dragon god of time himself. They are, in essence, lesser Adra, immortal spirits who were present at the dawn of creation, their very being a fragment of time's divine essence. Their souls are eternal because time itself is eternal. They do not truly die. Their energy can only be passed to another vessel, another of their kind, or a mortal blessed or cursed with a dragon's soul. Their language, the Thu'um, is not a learned system of communication. It is the language of creation, and to speak it is to command reality, because their nature is woven into the very fabric of that reality. When a dragon breathes fire, it is not just a magical effect. It is the physical manifestation of the concept of fire spoken by a being whose native tongue is existence itself. Alduin, their leader, is not simply the strongest dragon. He is the firstborn of Akatosh, a being of immense divine power, given the sacred and terrible task of being the World Eater. His purpose is to be the endpoint of a cosmic cycle, to devour the world and all of its history, to allow a new one to be born. His great crime, the act that sets the Dragonborn's destiny in motion, is that he has rejected his duty. Filled with pride, he has chosen to dominate the world rather than end it, a rebellion against his own father and the fundamental laws of time. The Dragonborn's quest to stop him is not just saving the world, it is putting a broken divine cycle back on its proper course. With this understanding, the act of absorbing a dragon's soul becomes the subject of a profound fan theory. The Dragonborn is not just downloading a password to unlock a new shout. The theory suggests that they are literally consuming the life experience of an immortal being. With every soul they devour, they absorb millennia of memories, of knowledge, of a perspective on a world that they have seen evolve since its inception. They do not just learn the word for fire, they experience the memory of the first fire, of continents shifting, of mountains being born. This process is a slow, methodical apotheosis. Each dragon's soul is a piece of a divine puzzle, a shattered shard of Akatosh. By consuming his children, the Dragonborn is slowly rebuilding that divinity within themselves. With every victory, they become less mortal, their soul burning brighter, hotter, and more like the very creatures they are sworn to destroy. The final, staggering lesson of the dragons is that the Dragonborn is fighting a war against their own kin. This is not a battle of man versus beast, but a divine civil war, a family squabble between the fractured children of the god of time. Each dragon is a living piece of history, a sentient moment of eternity, and to absorb their soul is to make that history a part of you. The Dragonborn, looking down at the smoking skeleton of their foe, feeling its ancient knowledge flood their mind, learns the exhilarating and terrifying truth of their nature. They are a predator of gods, a mortal born to consume immortality. In the wake of a dragon's death, as the torrent of its ancient soul floods the Dragonborn, something profound awakens. It is not just the memory of the dragon, but the power that fueled its very being. It is the voice, the Thu'um, a force that the Dragonborn shares with their slain kin. They have felt its raw power directed against them, a wave of force that can throw a man 100 feet, a torrent of fire that can turn a forest to ash. Now, that same power stirs in their own lungs, waiting for a word to give it shape, a command to give it purpose. To understand the Thu'um is to understand the true nature of the Dragonborn's power, a power that goes far beyond magic and rewrites the very laws of reality. The first steps on this path are instinctual. The Dragonborn finds themselves drawn to ancient walls, covered in the claw-like script of the dragon language. As they approach, a word detaches itself from the stone and burns itself into their mind. The knowledge is there, latent, but unusable. It is the dragon soul that acts as the key. After consuming the essence of a slain dragon, the Dragonborn feels that latent knowledge ignite into applicable power. This is the core fact of the shouts. They find the word, they absorb a soul, and then they can speak. Their first intentional shout is a revelation. They speak the word fooz, force, and the world ripples. They learn a second and a third until they can unleash the full legendary cry, Fooz Ro Dar. It is not just a gust of wind, it is a physical manifestation of pure, irresistible force, a wave of kinetic energy that sends Draga tumbling like withered leaves. They learn to breathe fire, to sprint like the wind, to slow the passage of time itself to a crawl. The Thu'um is their ultimate weapon, but to the oldest and wisest practitioners of the voice, it is not a weapon at all. High on the slopes of the throat of the world, in the silent monastery of High Hrothgar, the Dragonborn is introduced to a philosophy that is the antithesis of the dragon's will. This is the way of the voice, an obscure and pacifist tradition. The Greybeards, Arngeir, Bori, Einarth, and Wulfgar are the most powerful masters of the Thu'um in the world, and yet they live in utter silence. They teach that the voice is not a tool for war, but a method of meditation, a way to worship the gods. They believe it was Kinnereth, the goddess of the sky, who first gifted mortals the ability to speak the dragon tongue, and that it should be used to honor her, not to dominate others. Their founder, Jurgen Windcaller, turned to this philosophy after the disastrous Battle of Red Mountain, where the Nord's mighty voice was defeated. He concluded that their power had failed because they had used this divine gift for selfish, warlike purposes. The Greybeards' endless silence is a form of reverence, a testament to the awesome power of every word they could speak. They see the Dragonborn's very nature, to use the voice as a weapon, with a deep and abiding sorrow. Their caution hints at the true nature of the Thu'um, a truth explored in the deepest fan theories about the world's metaphysics. The Thu'um is not magic. A mage draws upon an external source of power, magicka, from the plane of Aetherius, and uses it to cast a spell. A spell is, in essence, a request for reality to bend its rules. The Thu'um is something far more fundamental. The theory posits that the Thu'um is a form of tonal architecture, a way of speaking a new truth into existence. When the Dragonborn shouts Yol, the word for fire, they are not casting a fire spell, they are making a definitive statement. They are declaring that the concept of fire is now an absolute, undeniable truth in the space directly in front of them. The universe, hearing this statement from a being with a divine soul, has no choice but to comply. Reality itself reshapes to accommodate the statement. The Dragonborn is not asking the laws of nature to bend, they are issuing a new temporary law and forcing it into effect through the sheer power of their will. This is why the dragons, as the children of the god of time, are the natural masters of this power. Their very being is intertwined with the foundational laws of existence, so they are fluent in its native tongue. The Dragonborn, by virtue of their draconic soul, shares this fluency. They are not merely shouting at their enemies, they are engaging in a philosophical debate with the universe, and their voice is the final, unanswerable word. This understanding recasts the Dragonborn not just as a hero or a warrior, but as a living piece of creation's source code, a walking, talking reality editor. This power is both magnificent and terrifying. The Greybeard's quiet life is not just a matter of pious reverence, it is a practical measure against the corrupting influence of the voice. The drive to dominate is inherent in the soul of a dragon, and the Thu'um is the ultimate expression of that drive. To constantly impose your will upon the world is the very definition of tyranny. Paarthurnax, meditating for millennia on the throat of the world, is in a constant battle against his own nature, using the way of the voice to keep his urge to dominate at bay. The Dragonborn, with every shout they master, feels that same draconic instinct stirring within them. The lesson of the Thu'um is the ultimate lesson in power and responsibility. It teaches the Dragonborn that their greatest challenge is not slaying dragons, but mastering the dragon within their own soul. At the very peak of their power, having mastered the language of creation itself, the Dragonborn travels to the end of all things. In the misty, mead-hall-strewn afterlife of Sovngarde, they confront Ulduin the World Eater, not as a man or mer, but as a living myth, a force of destiny equal to his own. They fight amidst the ghosts of heroes, and with a final, definitive shout, they cast the firstborn of Akatosh out of time, saving the world not just from a tyrant, but from a premature end. They have fulfilled the prophecy. They have achieved the impossible. They return to the mortal world, standing atop the throat of the world, a true god among mortals, and they look down upon the land they have saved, wondering how their great victory has changed it. The answer, they will soon learn, is the final, most humbling lesson Skyrim has to teach. It has barely changed at all. This is the core, unavoidable fact that greets the hero upon their return. They descend the mountain and walk into the familiar streets of Whiterun, and the world is stubbornly, resolutely the same. Nazim still wanders the market, asking with his insufferable condescension if you get to the Cloud District very often. The guards still greet you with a casual remark about their cousin fighting dragons, or a complaint about an arrow to the knee. The companions in Jorvaska are still sparring, the merchants in the Bannered Mare are still haggling, and the children are still playing tag in the streets. There are no parades, there are no holidays declared in the Dragonborn's honor. The great cosmic battle for the fate of all creation has, it seems, caused less of a stir than a tavern brawl. Dragons still dot the skies, a lingering, persistent echo of the great threat, and the radiant, unending cycle of minor quests continues. A Jarl needs a bandit leader killed. A steward posts another bounty for a troublesome giant. The world's problems, both great and small, have not been magically erased. This apparent indifference from the world has been the subject of a long-running fan theory, a way to explain what might otherwise feel like an unsatisfying conclusion. The theory suggests that the world does not properly acknowledge the Dragonborn's deeds, because it simply cannot. The scale of their victory is too grand, too metaphysical for the common person to comprehend. A farmer understands the threat of a wolf, and a soldier understands the threat of a rival army. But how do you explain to them that you have just returned from the Nordic afterlife, where you used a special shout taught to you by the ghosts of ancient heroes to defeat a god who was eating the concept of time itself? The very words are meaningless. The Dragonborn's heroism has occurred on a plane of reality so far removed from the daily struggles of mortals that it has become an abstraction. They have become a myth while they are still alive, a figure of legend whose true deeds are too vast to be believed, and so they are met with the familiar, grounding and slightly insulting reality of everyday life. This sense of being an outsider, a figure detached from the world they inhabit, is a key component of an obscure but central piece of Elder Scrolls lore, the archetype of the prisoner. The Dragonborn, like the heroes of Morrowind and Oblivion before them, began their story in captivity, a person with no name, no history, and no ties to the world. This status as the prisoner is what allows them to defy fate, to make choices that are not bound by prophecy, and to sever the threads that the gods have woven. But this same status makes them inherently transient. They are a force of nature that passes through the world, a catalyst for great change, but they are not a permanent fixture. Their destiny is to be a key that unlocks a crucial moment in history, and once the lock is turned, the key is no longer needed. The world, saved and set back on its course, is meant to continue without them. The prisoner's final act is to become unnecessary, and so, the Dragonborn finds themselves in a strange, unending epilogue. Their great purpose has been fulfilled, but their life continues. There is no final credits roll, no happily ever after. There are only more days. They can try to settle down, to build a house in the quiet woods, to adopt children and surround themselves with the trappings of a normal life. But there is always another cave on the horizon, another quest giver in a remote village, another dragon roaring in the distance. The world they saved does not grant them peace. It simply offers them an endless series of smaller problems to solve. Their destiny was to save the world, but their fate is to wander it, a hero whose great war is over, but whose battles will never ever end. The final lesson is that the Dragonborn's great purpose was not to change the world into their own image, but to simply give it the chance to continue being itself. They were a shield against apocalypse, and the shield, its duty done, is quietly set aside. Now, as our long journey through the snow-swept lands of Skyrim comes to a gentle close, allow the resonant truths of these lessons to settle around you, not as a checklist to be memorized, but as the faint, distant echoes of a half-remembered dream. The roar of a dragon, the whisper of a Daedric prince, the solemn silence of a greybeard's meditation. Let them all merge and soften, becoming a part of the quiet landscape of your own mind. The Dragonborn's path was one of immense power and profound humility, a discovery that even a soul that could command reality was still just a single figure walking through a world that would continue turning, with or without them. Their story is over for tonight. The endless quests and unturned stones of that cold, beautiful land will wait patiently for another time, another adventure. For now, there are no more choices to be made, no more burdens to be carried. There is only the soft, comforting weight of your blankets and the gentle, steady rhythm of your own breathing. Feel the last of the day's tension release, and let the quiet darkness be a welcome friend, a silent companion to guide you into a peaceful, well-earned rest. All is well. The world has been saved, and it is time for the hero to sleep.